Hey there, and what's up, everybody? Welcome to another trade recap from eMiniMind. Today we're going to go through a couple of trades from today and yesterday on the E-mini S&P. I first wanted to start with the daily chart of the SPY. You can see a little bit of a spike here in volume on the sell-off on Monday. Likely a lot of profit taking occurring on that day. And if we compare the SPY to, say, the NASDAQ or the Qs, we can see the NASDAQ not quite breaking above its high from back in August, but we did pull back to its 50%, and we did take out the swing high from here in the middle of October. And so we'll see if I'll be interested to see if the NASDAQ can push up and take out this swing high, while at the same time, the SPY has not pulled back to its equivalent next 50% retracement. It has touched its 50% short up here, and we had a little bit of selling today, not really enough to break the swing low from a couple days ago, but it might be enough to get us going a little bit lower, at least for maybe a couple of days, to push us down to that 50% long. And so intraday, the VIX jumped a little bit today, but if we go to the actual VIX chart, not a huge change. We're still right in that kind of mid-20 zone that we've been in for so long, excluding the couple of spikes for a week or so outside of it, up into the upper 30s and just poked up here into the low 40s. For those that are following Tesla, now might be a great time to put on a long position. We are very much at the apex of the triangle, where we have the uptrend line converging as the downtrend line converges right about that 410. And I would just put my stop, or if you use an option, exit on a break below the swing low back here on the 30th of October. But we're kind of right at that point where if we're going to go higher, it's likely going to happen from here. And if the bottom were to fall out, then that would also likely happen from here. It would be a little bit odd if we were to, move into new highs and then immediately fall down and then be trading back down here at like 250. So I don't normally kind of bring up some of these speculative plays, but I've been watching Tesla for a while as we make this big, really big triangle. So let's go over to the intraday chart. First, I wanted to talk about today's trade, and I've got a couple of lines here on the chart. I'll first start with this line back here. This is just marking the close, the settlement from 2 days ago that we had not touched. And so this morning, we opened below yesterday's close, and then this close was the next closest one. And so as we came down to that point, I was looking for, a break. So here's the morning. I'm looking for a break of a swing high. I guess before we do that, I should mention we had a little double top in the first 10 minutes, and then that sold off. I first drew it up like this. Let me zoom in a little bit. I first drew it up like that. Didn't get a fill. Sold off a little bit more, dragged it down like so. It was right at that 15-minute mark, set up in the 50% short, and that traded down really just to that unfilled gap. We were like a few ticks away from it. Anytime we're within a point, I consider that filled. And so the short trading down, just trailing my stop behind the next 61.8. When you get into a situation where you draw up the next retracement like this, and then we go through the negative 23 and then all the way to the negative 61.8, you can tighten your stop to the extension and go low to low, and then the next low to low. Um, it, the, at the very least, it brings your stop down closer to a potential bounce point. If you were to say, draw the full halfway back, well, yeah, you might stay in more trades because you have more wiggle room for price to come back against you before it rolls over. But, a situation like this, you're down here at 35.47s, and you basically have to trade back up 10 points to see if it's going to get another leg down. So I prefer to get, I wouldn't call it overly aggressive, but somewhat aggressive with my trail stop. So there, if you're trailing the extension like that, I was able to close out of the short trade, and basically, as we came down to this 35.45 area down here, 35.46 area, that unfilled gap, looking to exit out of the short, and then it happened pretty quick, but there was enough time to draw up the long like this. And I tried to get in, I got in the long, trailed it up on the first two retracements, and that's when we just started breaking down and kind of going sideways. And so drawing up the first retracement, using that as the entry, trailing my stop behind the second and the third, and then getting taken out up here, 35.51.75. And so then from there, we spent a lot of time just moving sideways, and then these two horizontal lines are just the top and the bottom of the first 30-minute range. You can see we're pretty much trading right in the middle of the range, and anytime we're doing that, I kind of step back, sit on my hands, just let things play out, so I don't just take halfway backs in this range, and it's just stop out, stop out, stop out, and you just get chewed up in those kind of situations. So trying to stick to highs and lows in a session where where we are within the top and bottom of the first 30-minute range. I'm sure you've heard me talk about that a fair bit if you've watched any of the videos in the past. And then as we came up to highs here, I chose to pass on the short at highs. Normally, I'm a fan of shorting at highs, but I felt like we still had room to go to the unfilled gap from yesterday, and we were above the top of the first 30-minute range up here. So, there wasn't a clear swing low, but if you grab the previous low and just pull it to highs, that lines up with the top of the first 30-minute range. So I decided to pass on the short. It rolled over a little bit, came down maybe to the midpoint or so of the range, and then we were right back up. And you can see on this 15-minute chart, red candle, green candle, red candle. By and large, the whole morning was just mostly sideways with not a lot of great entries that you'd really have to get a little lucky and pick the one setup that worked in kind of the latter part of the morning. So taking those first two, even though they didn't get a lot of follow through, this whole week has really been, as I go through all my trades, not, I guess with the exception of Monday, it had a pretty sizable runner, but the rest of the week has just been, 3-4 point moves in the ES, and so not huge moves, but you take a couple of those in a session, and then all of a sudden you're sitting pretty good, and so that's just been the tone of the week. Not huge runners, but decent smaller setups. And then if we go to yesterday, zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go back to the 5-minute chart. It's typically what I use. And we are at also 756. So that is down at lows. And I'll scroll over on my 512 tick chart. 56. Now this one was a low tick at lows. down here. We had the low price, and it lined up with the low nicey tick at the same time that we had that low price. We had sold off in the morning session, and that high, or I'm sorry, that low that we had the low tick on lined up with the prior day's high. And those are numbers that I really pay attention to, the prior day's high, low, and close as likely bounce points. And so we got the low ticket lows. We bounced a little bit, sold off. I chose to draw it up like this, where this high takes out the swing high, as opposed to just jumping in on the low tick on a pullback, on the first pullback, letting it break the swing high and then drawing it up here. That one, it ended up being, the low for at least the morning, and then we rallied pretty good. But you can see through all of the chop, wasn't able to stay in. It went up one push, or I got in, and then drew the next retracement, and then that's where I was taken out. So not really a great way to stay in that one without having your stop all the way below lows. So another small one yesterday, and then for Tuesday's trades, you can go into the member dashboard. If you just go to emoneymind.com/VIP, and I have the whole trading session from Tuesday morning session in there, and you can watch all those and check out those trades there. So if you have questions, feel free to drop a note in the comments. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.